Net neutrality. This is the rage for the past little while all over social media, Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, YouTube, wherever you look. The news is everywhere. People talking about net neutrality, and the FCC, they're repealing it. Now, at first, when you hear about this, you think, oh my god, that is a shocking thing. How dare they repeal net neutrality? They've just voted to repeal it. It hasn't been repealed yet, but they've just voted to repeal it. So you start wondering, okay, so what is net neutrality? Okay, so it's rules that basically require internet service providers to treat all data packets equally. So it has to treat data from Netflix the same as it would treat data from, say, Amazon.com. So it means that ISPs can throttle speeds to one site. That say if your internet provider had stakes in Netflix, they couldn't buff the speed in Netflix and reduce it in, say, Hulu, because by doing that they would be almost incentivizing you to go to Netflix instead of Hulu. That's just one example. Another example would be without net neutrality, ISPs, they would be allowed to, say, charge you for visiting specific websites. Well, from my understanding, right now, say for example, say you pay $30 per month for your internet package, and that lets you access all websites, okay? Now, say without net neutrality, ISPs are allowed, doesn't mean they will, it means they are allowed to instead charge you $30 for your package. What they would do is what I've seen from other countries that don't have net neutrality, and it has happened there, is what they would do is they would charge you $10 for your internet package. However, that $10 only covers very basic websites. It may cover Google searches, Wikipedia, stuff like that. You would then pay an additional $5 for a social media package, which would allow you access to social media websites. So now you're at $15. They would charge another $5 for access to sites such as Netflix and YouTube. Another $5 for maybe adult websites like Pornhub. And then another $5 for shopping websites such as Amazon. So that comes up to $30 as well. And this is just an example. So people are worrying and saying, oh my god, if we don't have net neutrality, we're going to have to pay for all this stuff and they're going to rip us up. I don't think so. The examples I've seen from countries that don't have net neutrality and this actually happens is you're actually paying about the same, or in some cases people are saving money. Because, for example, if you've got, say, grandparents, you've got old people and all they want to do is some Google searches, or maybe they just want to check on Facebook and that's it. They're not watching Netflix, they're not looking at porn. They're just, all they need is they need their basic package and they need a social network package. So there's $15 because $5 for your social networks, $10 for the base package. They're only paying $15, whereas right now they're paying $30. So they're actually saving money. So some people, from my understanding, would actually save money because of stuff like this. Now, the worry, I understand though, is that there is a fear that companies, say Comcast, because they don't have a lot of competition in certain areas, there aren't alternatives to them, they could hike their prices. So instead of $30, they could say $30 up front, and then they could add that on. Now that is very unlikely, but that is the fear, that is the worry. In other countries that don't have net neutrality, this isn't what's happening, but it is possible that without net neutrality this could happen. The argument against that is that the market would correct itself, the free market will, because what would happen is viable competition and alternatives would appear. And so people say, well, there aren't alternatives now, so why would there be? Well, I've heard the argument that right now a larger reason why there aren't very many alternatives is because the smaller companies, they can't afford to keep up with all the regulations from the government on the internet. Without net neutrality, these other smaller companies might have more of a chance to compete, and they might be able to afford to compete. Now, I'm not saying anything here with genuine certainty, because this is more of a discussion. I'm trying to open up a discussion because I was very much led to believe that net neutrality was the greatest thing ever and that without it we were all fucked. As soon as I started looking into it though, as soon as I heard the opposing arguments, I started realizing it's like everything else. There are two sides to every argument. And it isn't the end of the internet. It isn't the end of internet freedom. In a lot of ways, it's actually, you've got more freedom on the internet. It's better in some cases, from what I'm hearing, for not having net neutrality. And the thing that gets me most, right, I'd still say right now, the idea of net neutrality, I'm for it. I'm not against net neutrality. I wish it was still a thing. So, I'm not against net neutrality. But the thing that gets me, that people aren't seeming to realize, is that in the United States, net neutrality didn't even take effect until last year, 2016. It was signed into legislation in 2015, but it took about a year to get into effect, and it didn't actually start taking effect until last year. Last year. And people are saying, without net neutrality, it's the end of the free and open internet, we're losing all this. No. Before 2016, you didn't have net neutrality. And, oh my god, you weren't having to pay $30 and then $5 for a social media package on top, and $5 for Netflix, and $5 for every tweet you send out. No. Everything was fine. Did you notice any changes between 2015 and 2016? I mean, in the UK, we've had net neutrality for a long time under the EU regulations. But in the US, I've not heard anyone say anything that they've noticed a difference. Most people don't seem to realise that it only came into effect last year. And when you consider this, it doesn't... Forget about the rest of this argument. Forget about absolutely everything else. Forget about the worries. Forget about what big companies could do. I'm still for net neutrality. But forget about the worries of the big businesses. Forget about all of that. Forget about, what if the big businesses are going to scam us out of our money? What if it's the end of the free and open internet? Forget about all of that. Just think for a second. Net neutrality didn't exist 2 years ago in the United States. And you didn't have any problems then. That's all I'm trying to get across. And again, that is the one thing I can say with certainty, is that net neutrality wasn't a thing in the US till 2015 when it was signed into legislation, and then it took effect in 2016. Everything else I'm saying is purely speculation. I'm just bringing across some arguments I've heard from other people and from other sources. I'm very conflicted on the issue. However, the one thing I'm saying with certainty, as I keep saying, is that net neutrality wasn't a thing till recently. And everything was fine. So leave a comment down below telling me what you think about that, what you think about net neutrality in general. And until next time, I'm Rag Reynolds, and you're welcome, society.